So we're here today with Eilish McColgan. Welcome, Eilish.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here to speak to. Eilish is known, I'm sure, to everybody watching. She is the current Scottish record holder at both 3,000 metre steeplechase and the 5,000 metres. She's represented Great Britain at 2 Olympic Games and was homing in on her third in Tokyo when everything came to an unexpected halt this year. She won a silver medal at the European Championships in Berlin in the 5,000 metres, and over the years we've seen her put in superb performances at pretty much every distance from 800 metres up to 10,000 metres. And because we're here mostly to talk about coaching today, we also have to mention that Eilish's coach is also her mum, who again will be very well known to you as the athletics legend Liz McColgan. So thanks for joining us to talk about your career and the way you've worked with coaches over the years. And you're coming to us, I think, from the US at the moment.
Yeah, currently in Colorado Springs.
Grand. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that maybe later. But I said in the introduction, you know, your mum needs no introduction. One of the greatest Scottish athletes of the sort of recent era. But I think it's true to say, is it not, that when you were a kid, you were not particularly aware of her sort of athletic achievements?
Yeah, literally not at all. I think growing up, my parents almost like sheltered me away from the fact that they were professional athletes, and that they, I don't know if it was just to, I think my parents wanted to ensure that I got into the sport for the right reasons. Like, they didn't want to be known as like pushy parents, and that just because they run, I have to run. And honestly, I had just no awareness of what my mum had achieved in the sport, or even that my dad was a professional athlete. Like, I just assumed that everyone's parents went out running and just were active. And it wasn't really until I got to high school that I had a bit more of awareness about it. I mean, as a young kid, you're just so naive. I mean, I just used to think that we would be in, my mum had a base in Gainesville, Florida. That was her sort of training base over the winter months. And I mean, to me, that was just like us going on holiday. Do you mean, I had no sense of actually this was a training camp for my mum's upcoming big races. And I don't ever remember being at the track or anything like that. I remember just going to like a park, like a loop that my mum used to run around. And again, me and my dad would just be playing whilst my mum runs. So like, I never had a real awareness that she was a professional athlete. But at high school, my last sort of years of primary school and into high school, I remember doing a cross-country competition, and loads of kids had like surrounded my mum and were asking for autographs, and it just confused me. Like, I had no idea what they were doing. I was thinking, why are they asking for my mum's autograph? And we used to even have people that come up to the house, and I would have to run down with little autograph cards that my mum had signed. And yeah, it was just strange. I mean, I couldn't really connect the two into my head as to what was going on. And my mum never had her medals out. She never showed me any of her races. Like, I'd never saw anything. It was really until I was a bit older that journalists would like sit me down and say, here's your mum's 10,000 meters in Tokyo, what do you think? Or they would like force my mum to go and get her medals out to like show me for newspaper articles, whatever. So it was never from my parents really. But I think that helped, that encouraged me to do it for the right reasons. And I'd say that's probably one of the main reasons I'm still in it now, is because I love running, and it was from me that I got into it.
And it sounds then as if you found your own way into athletics. I know you did a lot of different sports when you were younger, is that right?
Yeah, I suppose I just was very energetic. I just loved to be part of different clubs, and the running club was obviously the one that I loved the most. But I mean, I did everything from, I used to go swimming, tennis, I used to go badminton at my leisure centre. I even went golf with my dad a few times. Like, I did absolutely everything. But for me, running was the one that I loved the most. I mean, I just had some sort of, a connection with that, more so than the other sports.
And what was it particularly, do you think, that took you to to Dundee Hawk Hill first of all? Was it just that you were trying everything that came along, or was it because your mum was coaching there already and it seemed worth a go? Or do you remember first starting there?
So my mum actually wasn't a coach at this point. She had I'd just done a cross country. My PE teacher put me in for a local cross country. I was in like primary 6, primary 7, and because of my name, she just signed me up, and I'd never really done any running before. I'd gone around the garden and stuff with my parents, but nothing ever of any big races or anything. And yeah, I did the cross country and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I didn't win or anything, I didn't win any medals, but I was maybe, I don't know, top 5 in the Angus County schools. And I remember after the race, there was a guy at the end who was like scouting the top 6 girls to join the local running club, which actually was Arbroath at the time, because the race was in Arbroath. And I was so excited, like I couldn't believe it. I felt great, like somebody had like scouted me to join the local running club. And my friend Ian at my primary school as well, he had also been scouted. So obviously I went back to my mum and I was like, oh, I can't believe it, like being scouted for this local club, can we go along? And I begged her. And my mum said, look, if you want to join the running club, you're not joining Arbroath, because my running club's Dundee. So I'll take you to Dundee and you can go along. And if you really enjoy it, then you'll see how it goes. And so me and Ian went along to the club, and we started off, we just did everything. I mean, we did like high jump, I did sprint hurdles, we did all events just in the little sort of like kids development group. Ian then quit, and I said to my mum, I want to do distance running. I want to go up to the older group, the more adult group. And she said, you know what, if you stick at it for whatever it was, X amount of months, she said, I'll come down and I'll start coaching you, so we can do something a bit more specific. And it just went from there. Like I stayed at the club, I loved it. I stayed however many months my mum had put down a little probation for, and then that was it. She came along. She started with maybe just me and maybe 1 or 2 other kids in the group, and it just developed year on year. I mean, she got more and more athletes.
So actually, a lot of people probably think that it was your mum being a coach that got you into athletics. It sounds more like it was you running that got your mum into coaching. It's kind of the reverse.
She had never, I don't think she'd ever really thought about it. I suppose as an athlete, I mean, you're so involved in being a professional athlete and you're racing. And when she retired, then I suppose she was just bringing up me as a kid, and that took all of her energy. So she just didn't think, I don't think it really crossed her mind about coaching. It wasn't until I had said, actually, do you know what, I want to start doing longer distance and not do all the events, that she was like, actually, yeah, I'll come along and we'll start seeing if we can, if she can help me out. And it really did take off from there. As I said, she got a really big group and went on to be quite a successful coach within the club. But yeah, it was me begging my mum and dad to drive myself and Ian to the Hawks from our home in Carnoustie, which was maybe, I don't know, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. But we used to, yeah, there was a lot of begging and persuading to take us. But yeah, once we had committed, I think then they were willing to commit as well.
And it sounds like those early sessions, as you say, were mostly fun. And then you reached a point yourself where you wanted to take things more seriously and focus more. What was the kind of change in coaching when you made that transition? What do you remember of those first sessions where you were running more distance and joining the slightly older group?
Yeah, I suppose when I first joined the club, the Hawks had just a junior coach. So they just take everyone new in. And to be honest, you didn't really know that you were doing athletics, because we would go to the golf course and we'd play manhunt for like an hour. So you were like sprinting in between trees and you were hiding, and then you were getting chased by someone. So like you never really felt like it was like, it wasn't athletics as in the athletics we know it as. I mean, it was more like we were doing a fartlek without even realizing. But I wouldn't say it obviously wasn't structured towards one event. Some days we'd go to the track and we would do high jump for the hour we were there. And so I suppose I just started to, once I got into the club system and started to race a little bit more. I mean, if you look at I have like a little diary, and I've got PBs from like the long jump to the javelin to like my first ever medal at Scottish schools was in the javelin. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even in running. So I suppose once I got into competing, that's when I started to realize, oh, actually, yeah, maybe if I want to do, it was the 800 at the time, obviously it was like the longest distance I could run, or 15. And I suppose once you start to compete, you realize, oh, actually, maybe I need to do a bit more tailored training towards that event. I mean, you need to be a little bit more specific to make progress. And that's when I suppose I wanted my mum to come and help me out with. And so I originally moved into a senior group with a coach called Mr. Silver. who's still going at the Hawks now. He was more of a sprint hurdle group. So that was initially my plan was, I'll join a bit more adult group and do a bit more tailored training towards that event. But again, it was always the longer distances that I really, really enjoyed. And that's really when my mum came into play. And again, I haven't looked back from then.
And I know probably from that point to going through your teenage years, you had quite a lot of experience of competition, and at a reasonably high level you were doing quite a lot of the Scottish schools and the sort of age group champs and stuff. Was that always quite an important part for you of the athletics experience going through your teens?
Yeah, I think being part of those teams was, I suppose, just at that level, that's your big competition. Do you know what I mean? When you're a kid, making the Scottish schools and making a Scottish schools final is a big deal. Do you know what I mean? That's the level that you're operating at. And you always have my sort of dream was to try and make the Scottish schools team to then go and compete against England, Ireland and Wales as well. Do you know what I mean? It was a big deal to make that team. So it's almost like they're just the natural progression stepping stones to trying to push yourself to a higher level. And I used to love it. I mean, the Scottish schools were in Grangemouth every single year. That's just where it was. And I have so many amazing memories from that championships. It really was like the cornerstone of Scottish athletics development as a kid, was that you used to race at Grangemouth. I mean, we did it every single weekend, but the big race was the Scottish schools. It was definitely, probably my first step at thinking that actually I really enjoy this. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy it more than just the training side of it and the social side of it. I actually really enjoy competing and seeing if I can better myself, or can I get a PB. Every race I went into, I wanted a PB. Do you know what I mean? That's what all kids strive to achieve. But I'd say I found it difficult in the sense that I was never one of the top kids. There was young girls that were constantly breaking Scottish schools records, or even someone like Beth Potter was incredible as a Scottish schools junior athlete. I think she broke a few records, and there was always kids that were doing amazing things. And I would always think, God, I'm nowhere near that level. Do you know, I was quite a bit off of that. And I'd say I found that very maybe mentally difficult to deal with, just in the sense that my mum was always holding me back all the time. I would always want to do more, but actually now when I look back, it was probably the best thing she ever did for me, was realising that, do you know what, the Scottish schools and stuff, it's important as a junior athlete, really important, but if you want to make it as a senior athlete, it's important that you get the right level of training to ensure that you can go to that next level.
Also,
so I'd say thing.
That's also presumably quite an important message for young athletes, even if they're like going flat stick in their teens and they're not getting the results they want. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's where they're going to be pitched throughout their career. That, you know, the speed that you're running at through your teens can change as you get older.
Yeah, massively. It depends on everyone's individual body development, because even more so in boys, because you might get a young lad who isn't developed at all, but yet gets stronger as he matures and gets older. Or you might have a young lad who's already fully developed, do you know what I mean, as an adult, competing against the younger ones. So it depends on your body development. Same thing with young girls going through puberty. Menstrual cycle is so difficult to try and coordinate, certainly even as a junior, do you know what I mean, to try and get it towards a point where it's not affecting performance. There's so many different factors that you go through. I know that from 16 to around 18, I just had no improvements at all. I hit a massive plateau in training. I felt like all the training that I was doing, my energy was just going elsewhere. So there's a lot of those factors that come into play as well. And actually, you don't know what training young kids are doing either. Some coaches, unfortunately, do push them like adults. So when they come to an adult level, there's nowhere for them to progress. I mean, they're already reaching their peak at the age of 16, 17, which is unfortunate, but it happens time and time again. So certainly for me, looking at juniors now, I'd say it's so difficult, because to them, it's the Olympic Games. I mean, it's the biggest thing in the world. But and it was the same for me. The amount of times I'd be crying home from a competition because it just went awfully. But actually now when I look back, it really does not matter what you do as a junior athlete. As long as you continue to enjoy it, you continue to put the work in, you're still working hard. You never know what might happen in 5-10 years time as you develop as an athlete. I mean, it took me to the age of 21 was my first ever GB team. And yet I started this sport at, I don't know, 11, 12. And I mean, Laura Muir's another, she's probably an even better example than myself. That someone who wasn't making even Scottish teams and yet has gone on to be one of the best athletes in the world. So I'd certainly say your performance level as a junior is certainly not reflective as a senior athlete. You can go on to do great things. It's really just you need two things of maintaining your training throughout those tough periods and enjoyment. If the enjoyment's not there, then unfortunately these young kids won't continue in the sport.
And I know for a lot of kids, one of the points that it's difficult to continue in the sport is starting university. In your case, you stayed in Dundee, so there was that continuity there. But I know you said yourself you did quite enjoy yourself at university.
It's no secret. Like I certainly enjoyed university life, and I wasn't a runner. Do you mean when I look back now, like I still trained all the time. That was the thing. Like I still had the enjoyment of running. I still went down to the Hawks 3 days a week and trained with them. But I mean, it wasn't my job. Do you mean I wasn't a professional athlete? I wasn't getting paid to do it. I had no, not that I didn't have any ambitions of taking it further, but I just, in all honesty, I wasn't good enough. Do you know what I mean? So I enjoyed myself at university. I went out and partied. I had a great friendship group. I certainly partied harder than it would help my athletics performance. But to be honest, it's not something that I majorly regret, because it's a part of my life that is very different to the way I live now. But I feel like I got it all out of my system. Do you mean I had a great time? I met some great people. I had some great memories, some not so great memories. But I think it's part and parcel of growing up and maturing as an adult. I think now, certainly once I made the decision in the end, I think it was the start of 2011, it was just like a light switch moment. Somebody in my family actually had said to me, I don't know why you bother. Like, why do you bother running? Because you put in all this effort into your training, but like you're never going to become a professional athlete. And I thought, well, I enjoy running, so why can't I do both? Do you know what I mean? I'm not professional. I don't get paid to do this. But it just annoyed me a little bit that like someone felt like I was like wasting my time. I don't know what it was. It just, and maybe because it was somebody in my family as well, it was just like a light switch went off, and I thought, actually, I'll show you. Like, I think I can actually become a professional athlete. I honestly don't know what happened, because I went from like being someone who was out drinking 5 days a week and not sleeping and eating kebabs at 4 a.m. in the morning to just going completely teetotal. I just didn't go out. All my friends were like, what has happened to you? Like, are you okay? Like, but it was just overnight. I just thought, no, actually, I'm going to give my running 100% because I'm 20 years old. The Olympics was coming around as well. And I think because it was in London, I just had this weird affinity to like competing in the home games. Everyone was chatting about how incredible it would be to have an Olympics in the UK, and like it would never happen again in our like lifetime. And I thought, well, I don't know, I want to be there. And it was stupid because I was nowhere near the level, but I did everything I could. I started training harder than ever. I focused on my eating was much better. I was sleeping, getting into like a really good routine. I split my university degree, so I had more time to focus on my running. And overnight I made all these changes, and within maybe 6 months, I think I made my first GB team, the under 23 team, and it just went from there. I made the team, and that was like a huge eye opener to me. Being around elite athletes, I thought, God, these people actually are elite. Do you know what I mean? They eat, sleep, and live running, and I'm not doing that, so I need to start. And that for me was the first step into professional athletics.
It sounds like a real example of how much attitude is part of a successful athlete's career. That, you know, there are lots of things you can control, lots of things you can't control. But from the minute that you made that decision that I'm going to not only train hard, I'm going to eat well, I'm going to pay attention to my sleep, I want to do this and I've got a goal, things changed very rapidly and you improved dramatically. Even possibly you weren't training that much more, but everything else came in.
Yeah, I think that for me, that was probably the biggest eye-opener of all of it, was I was doing the bit that I enjoyed. Do you know what I mean? I loved training. So even if I was going down to the track and I was tired and I was hungover from a night out, I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the social side of it. I enjoy pushing myself and feeling my body work hard. That's just the part that I enjoy. But the other things around it, like recovery, sleeping, stretching, foam roller, do you know what I mean? There was so much other parts of it, S&C, core work. I just didn't put any emphasis on those whatsoever. And obviously my parents have always been there to tell me how important that stuff is. But again, maybe it's a bit of rebellion, like you just don't listen to them. Do you know what I mean? You do what you choose what you enjoy, and you pick the bits, you nitpick the bits that you like. But I'd say, yeah, the start of 2011 was probably when I first realised that actually, why don't I just give myself a chance? I almost said I would give myself 1 year to see how things went. And so I'd start knuckling down and doing all the little 1% things that you might not think make a difference, and just see. And within 6 months, as I said, the improvement was massive. And that really gave me it became much easier then to continue. Do you know what I mean? Once you see that initial improvement, you think, actually, making sure that I'm getting 9 hours sleep every single night, and that I'm not on my feet all day, or that I'm eating much better. Do you know what I mean? I'm focusing on better nutrition. When you start to see the improvements, it's so much easier to continue all those things.
And in terms of that coach-athlete relationship, before you made that change, was there any pressure from your mum? Was she saying anything in terms of the way that your performance was relating to the way you were living your life at the time? Or was she just kind of encouraging you through the sessions and sitting back and thinking, well, we'll see what happens?
Yeah, I suppose there's been so many ups and downs throughout me and my mum's relationship, just normal parent up and down. There's been times where like we wouldn't be speaking at all, yet I would still go down to the track and I'd be one of the athletes. You know what I mean? She never treated me any differently. So it was easy to continue our coaching relationship, but it was probably more difficult to then go home and differentiate the two, because it not only isn't my coach, it's my mum as well. I could tell, I had a sense that she was not happy with my lifestyle and the way that I chose to live throughout university, but never ever did she step in and ever stop me from doing it or disencourage me from doing it. I think she almost just accepted that if I was serious about running, I'd come back to it. And if I didn't, then I'd go on, I'd get a job and I'd do something else. So she was there for the advice and to help me if I ever needed anything. She was always at the track, no matter what, for the sessions. She would still give me advice in my training, but she did take a little bit of a step back and just allow me to, I suppose, just mature as an adult and just to live my life a little bit. And to be honest, it was one of the best things she ever did, because when I made the decision to come back into the sport, or to take it seriously, it was me. Do you know what I mean? It was the decision I had made. I was never pressured into it. And I suppose that's why then it was easy for me to just commit my whole life then to running, because I decided I was doing it for me. And then it became so much easier between myself and my mum, because I suppose I had a much higher respect for her, knowing exactly what she had to sacrifice in order to achieve what she did in the sport. I mean, it certainly gives you more of an awareness of what it takes to be not only the best, an athlete in Scotland, but to be, my mum was one of the best athletes in the world. So I suppose I had a much greater appreciation of what she had sacrificed and what she'd gone through to be the athlete that she was.
And in terms of where you are now, obviously I think you're mostly based in Manchester. She's in Doha.
Yep.
So you're probably ahead of the curve of most of us at kind of remote working. Everyone else for the past couple of months has been getting around being online and doing things at a distance. And I think Michael, your partner, is with you trackside a lot of the time with a stopwatch and pacing you or cycling alongside, that kind of thing. So how does it all work out? Is she kind of sending you plans and then you sit and talk through them afterwards remotely, or how do all the pieces fit together?
Yeah, I suppose it took, as you said, like during this coronavirus lockdown, like my life just hasn't changed at all. Like me and Michael are together pretty much 24/7, and my mum is remotely. coaching me. But it took quite, I'd say, some time to adjust to that setup, because obviously I'd gone from growing up with my mum, living with her, being around her 24/7. She was the one at the track all the time. She was always at my races. And then when my parents split up, my mum remarried again, and her husband John, who's also an athletics coach, got a job in Doha. And so there was a very difficult conversation. It was a very difficult time for all of us, just going through something like that within your family. But it was also just difficult on I suppose a selfish side of things as well, because I'd been so used to my mum being there and being my coach. And now all of a sudden there was a chance that she was going to live in Doha. This is some place that I've never been before. I'd never even been to the Middle East. But at the same time, as much as I wanted her to just stay and just be here and be my mum, I had to appreciate that she had to make a living. I mean, she didn't have a job at the time, and this was an opportunity that would allow her to start a new life entirely. So it was a difficult conversation between us two, but she moved abroad, and it took some time for us to adjust to that, because it did just go from being together 24/7 to then being online and just trying to almost go through this coaching relationship remotely. It was very strange, but now we've got it's so easy. Like, I mean, this has been maybe 5 years or something now that we've been in this situation, and I suppose it's made us communicate much better probably than we ever did before. So my mum is the one who sets the whole program. She will send me like a provisional schedule pretty much every month. But I think the best thing about our coaching relationship now is, obviously, as I've got older and I'm very, very independent, like I know what works for me now. Like I know what sessions we sort of need to do. And so it's almost like my mum will set the basic plan, and then we'll discuss things through. We can chat things. It's weird that sometimes I might say, actually, I'm thinking about changing this session. And she'll be like, actually, yeah, I was thinking I want to change it to this. And what she'll say is exactly what I was thinking as well. So we're almost on the same page a lot of the time. But there's definitely more discussion between the training than when you're a kid. Your coach sets your training, you get on and you do it. But I think it's important as an adult, as you mature, you know again what works for you and what doesn't. And it's good, obviously I have Michael on the ground with me 24/7, so I'm not entirely on my own. He is the one, pacing sessions. He's been on the bike with me the whole time we've been here for the last 2.5 months. He's the one standing with a stopwatch, so timing me and pacing. He's doing pretty much everything. But at this end of the session, I'll text my mum my splits instantly. So as soon as I finish, I'll WhatsApp her my splits, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion about it. And then a couple of days a week, we'll catch up online, whether it's on WhatsApp, video call, or whatever, just to chat about how the week's gone. But I'd say a lot of our communication is just done day by day through WhatsApp. Not just running. I mean, of course, it's about my siblings or whatever else is going on in the world. But after every single run, it's really important that I message my mum. I'll message her. Obviously, she knows the distance I've ran. But anyway, I'll just say, do you know what? I went for a 7-mile run today. I went at this pace. Heart rate was this. It was windy, but was feeling all right. Do you know what I mean? There's always a constant communication, and that's really the way it works. If I wake up sick in the morning, I'll text her to say, do you know what? I'm actually not well today, so I'm going to adapt it and change things. So it's definitely been, it needs work on both. It needs communication from both parts for it to work, and it does work.
And one of the things I guess you must have had to work out, particularly in your case, is that for a long time you were struggling with injury and illness, and you particularly had the ankle injury that put you out for a long time. And I know you've kind of said since then that you've found what seems to be the sweet spot, which is actually maybe not as intense mileage as some people might be doing, but you're not doing double runs, but you do a lot of cross training and a lot of other things. How did you find your way back to a level that seemed to work when you were coming back from a long time out of the sport? Was it a matter of just ramping things up until you started to see improvements and sitting at that level, or?
Again, it was a difficult period because my mum is from the old school training method of you work bloody hard and you get the results. So she was so used to doing 100-mile weeks, and that was just the way that she operated, and her body, for whatever reason, could sustain that. I think the difficulty was I was trying to do the steeplechase at the time, so the impact that I was going through was substantially a lot more, because just the amount of jumps that you're doing through a race. I broke my ankle in 2015. So it was the second time that I broke my foot. The first time was in 2011 during a Diamond League race. I broke my navicular and had to go through a full reconstruction of the middle of my foot because I damaged it so much. And coming back from that, I mean, it was quite a learning curve, because I'd never been out for so long, and I had to sort of learn how to walk again, build everything up. It took a long time, but then we sort of tried to go back into the normal training that I did previously, and so we built up over the years, and I got to 2015, and then I broke my ankle again, and going through the whole process again was probably easier the second time around, but the pain that I had when I originally started back running again just wasn't gone. Like, it was the same pain I had when I initially broke my ankle, and it actually forced me to reduce my running, because I physically couldn't run through the pain. So I would run every morning, but in the evenings I couldn't bring myself to run again, just because it would be too sore. So I was almost forced to start cross training in the evenings, just because of the pain level. I just couldn't do it. So it wasn't from my mum, it wasn't from me, it was really just my body saying, you know, I'm not doing it. It just flat out refused. So we continued on within the sort of pain threshold boundaries that I could cope with. Just once a day running, because I thought, you know what, it's better than nothing at all. So let's try and just get fit. And obviously the Olympics was coming up as well. So I thought, you know what, if I can just get some sort of running in, I've got a better chance than no running at all. So we continued on, and I was still, up until March, April time of 2016, still in a lot of pain. I still had quite a bad limp, but I was sort of able to run through it a little bit. And my first race this season, I was really apprehensive. I was actually in America, and I did I think it was the Peyton Jordan 5,000 meters. I'd never done a 5K before, but I couldn't steeplechase because, again, the pain had stopped me from steeplechasing. So we thought, let's go and try a 5K, and if it goes well, great. If it doesn't, great, because at least I'm running. And I ran I ran an Olympic qualifier. I ran a 35-second PB, and I think that was the first time that me and my mum, when I called her after the race, she couldn't believe it, that here I was running, I don't know what it was, maybe 40 miles a week and cross training, and yet I'd run a 35-second PB. I was actually stronger, fitter and faster than I'd ever been before. So we sort of just fell into this routine without even realising, and something that it just naturally worked for me. We found that actually that seemed to be where I could stay injury free. I could maintain really good fitness, and my quality in my sessions just kept getting better and better and better. So from 2016 till now, that's what we've done. We've just stuck with the exact same routine of cross training in the evenings and running once a day, just because we found what works for my body. Of course, I can't do that forever. So I've this year we've tried to start incorporating just a couple of 3-mile double runs, because if I ever want to realistically look at doing 10K or half marathons, then I need to run more than 40 miles a week. It's impossible to do that. But up until now, it's been a really good balance of what we've done, and it really was just because we fell into it, to be honest.
In terms of goal setting, I know you've said that you try never to go into events or even into whole seasons aiming for podium places, that your goal setting is all about your PB and your times that you can get in various different disciplines. Is that something, do you just find that that's the best way to motivate yourself?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, and some people need to be just medal driven, and that's entirely it. But I've just never been that type of person. Like I as a kid, I never went to bed dreaming of becoming an Olympic champion or anything, because I just didn't believe it was ever a realistic goal for me. Do you know, I like to run. I was okay at it, but I was never like the best ever kid growing up, and I suppose I just didn't believe I had the potential to ever reach that sort of level. So for me, it was always just about PBs. Do you know, what could I do? Could I run a personal best? And if I did, then great. That was that was an improvement. And that's, I suppose, it started from a young kid level, and it's just developed into now as an adult. And I'd say obviously the faster you run and the better your PBs become, of course, you're going to naturally start thinking, actually, wait a minute here, I am in a medal target. Actually, maybe I can achieve a medal. So your confidence does build as those PBs get faster. But it's just been the way that I've always approached races. And I think it sounds quite depressing, but I think with the way our sport is as well, with regards to you don't know what anyone else in the race is doing. Do you mean people get caught now for drugs 6 years after the event's finished, and you just you don't really know position wise what position you actually are, because there are some people that are cheating. That's just unfortunately the way our sport is. And even when I came my first ever World Championships, I ran a huge PB, made the final. I think I maybe ran another PB, and I came 10th. And that was in 2013, and now I think I'm up to 7th place, and who knows, but the people in front of that. So I just think positions really nowadays, are they real positions? I don't know. Whereas at least I know my PB is real. I know the time that I've ran, the time that I've set is me. Do you know what I mean? It's the best that I could possibly do in that day. So if I go into a race and I come last, but I run a huge PB, then you can't really be disappointed with that. Do you know what I mean? Because you've given it everything you can possibly give. But equally, if I run a PB and a medal, then yeah, I'm obviously going to be over the moon. But it's just the mindset that just is naturally what works for me. And I appreciate that. It might not work for everyone, but I think it's important that everyone focuses on their own individual development and their own individual PB. And that's what we say to. I mean, me and Michael coach some runners online. And I say that to everyone, because some people think, oh, but I'm not very fast. I'm not a very fast runner. But it doesn't matter. You have a PB, and whether that PB for a 10K is 32 minutes or if it's 62 minutes, it's still your PB. So if you go into a race and you break it, then you've done everything you possibly can. Do you mean you're still getting that improvement? So that's just, that's the way I like to focus on.
And is that an element of the sport that you're enjoying as well and interested in maybe years down the line in the future and coaching other athletes? It's something that you're already starting to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been doing it now for, I don't know how many years, 3-4 years maybe. Obviously it's all online at the moment because we are still professional athletes and we're traveling all the time. So it's not like we can physically have a group that we're there to commit to coach every week, the way that I had growing up. But certainly in the future, I would love to, once I retire, I'd love to go into that and start a group of my own. But for now, I'm just really enjoying doing it remotely, but we still have communication with our athletes pretty much every day. And I know firsthand that remote coaching can work. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the situation that I'm in. So I'm used to it, and I know how important it is to be communicating, to make sure that they're reporting back on their side and I'm commenting back to them to give feedback. But yeah, it's been really enjoyable. I think it's been a bit of an eye-opener with regards to seeing how hard people are willing to push themselves, because I think it's easy for me to be motivated because I'm a professional athlete and this is my job. So you just get up and you get on with it and you do your job, you do your work, because you know that's what you've chosen to do. But I mean, some of the runners that we coach are maybe working full time in the NHS. They might be a doctor, they might be a nurse. They're working crazy hours, crazy night shifts, even more so during this coronavirus lockdown period. And yet they're still getting out the door and going for a 12-mile run, or they're getting out the door and they're going for their fartlek session on a Friday night after they've been in work for so many hours. So it's actually been really motivating for us as well, and inspirational for us to see that it's not even their job, but they enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? They're willing to put in the work because they want to improve. Everybody wants to get faster. Everyone wants to run a PB. And it doesn't matter whether you're a professional elite athlete who's trying to strive for Olympic medals, or if you're someone that's trying to run their first ever park run. Every one of us is a runner, and every single person's got that same mentality. So yeah, it's actually been really cool. Like, we've really enjoyed it, and it's definitely something that hope to build on in the next couple of years. For now, we've kept our numbers quite limited, just in the sense that we want to make sure that we have enough time. Obviously we're busy people, so we want to make sure we have enough time to get everyone's training uploaded and all the comments and feedback. But certainly once I retire and have more time in my hands, and certainly once Michael retires as well, we'll have we'd love to develop it a little bit more and make it a bit broader across larger numbers.
Great. Well, that sounds like a great note to finish on. Thank you very much for talking us through. There's so much more we could talk about, but we'll draw it to a close then. And best of luck with whatever the rest of this summer season turns out to be.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you back on the track in due course.
Thanks very much.